The General Assembly and Church of the Firstborn is kind of the new kid on the block for the moronic who feel the need to test how absolutely stupid their faith is. More to the point, just how their belief in faith healing can lead them to total lunacy. I have some examples here for you that sound very much like the bozo Christian scientists, who, as we all know, are completely fucking insane. Anyway, here we go. Cushing, Oklahoma. This one's from Cushing, Oklahoma. Kathy Capville, age 26. She was allowed to die by a church midwife. Okay? Kathy had married into the General Assembly and Church of the Firstborn, where her husband was a member. After Kathy had given birth to her fourth child, she was allowed to just lie in her bed, and after 6 hours, she bled to death. Well, I feel sorry for the kids, and I'd like to feel sorry for Kathy, but she just got what she signed up for, in my opinion. Too bad the lesson was learned too late to do her any good. Oh, and her husband is a fucking asswipe. Franklin, Indiana. Dwayne and Melita Schmidt was found guilty of reckless homicide for refusing to seek medical treatment to help their newborn daughter. The infant had stopped breathing several times during the first day, turning blue at times. So here we have a newborn that was clearly in need of help, but of course, doctors are voodoo and can't be used. Church members were called to pray over the baby. No shit. The baby died just 2 days after her birth from an infection that could have been easily treated with antibiotics. The parents were sentenced to 6 years in prison. Hold on. Wait for it. But most of that was dismissed, and the two of them spent 1 year in a work release facility. That probably included conjugal visits to make more babies, no doubt. After the trial, both gave a statement that they didn't believe choosing prayer instead of medical care for their sick newborn daughter was wrong. And they said they would make the same decision if a similar situation ever arose again. Yeah, well, you know what? I hope sometime down the road someone makes that decision for the both of you fucking psychos. Oh, and in the same month, in the same county, another member of the church was arrested for practicing as a midwife without a license. She delivered a baby who was like 2 months premature, and that baby died too. Grand Junction, Colorado. Amanda Bates, 13, died at her home on February 5th of complications of untreated diabetes. Infection had set in, as well as gangrene in her feet. Her parents, who stood by to watch their daughter die like the brainwashed and mentally deranged slime they are, both pled guilty to criminal negligence and both got a fucking slap on the wrist. Anyway. Okay, one more. Carlton, Washington. Zachary Sweeney lay in his parents' bed, his breathing labored. When he fell ill March 15, the 17-year-old Carlton boy's parents, Greg and Jalea Sweezy, thought he had food poisoning. Okay, so what would you do if you thought your son had food poisoning? Take him to the doctor? Well, not so fast, because you're not devout and holy like this couple. They know the will of God. You don't. You don't realize how doctors are the tools of Satan. All right, where was I? But over the next 3 days, they realized it was something else, perhaps the flu. He had a fever and was vomiting and had severe diarrhea. So these religious Einsteins downgrade the seriousness of his illness from food poisoning to just a fucking flu because he started puking, had a fever, and suffered severe diarrhea? You see, Greg and Julia Sweezy, that's why you need a little help with things like that. Say, from a fucking doctor? God damn. During those 3 days, aunts, uncles, and grandparents, with not a sane one in the bunch, came to his bedside to pray. How nice That is just so nice. On March 17th, his father did not call a doctor or an ambulance. Instead, he called elders from the church, and they came to the house and anointed Zach with olive oil and prayed for him as Zach's family waited outside in the hall. So while Zach was puking and shitting all over himself, those who were entrusted to care for him reverted back to the dark ages for treatment. I bet they stopped short of bloodletting and applying leeches only because that probably would have considered modern medical procedures by these morons, I guess. Anyway, at midday on March 18th, shortly before 1 p.m., his breath slowed, his hands got cold and turned to a bluish color. With both of his parents at his bedside, Zach Sweezy died. The cause of death, a burst appendix. You fucking mindless, pathetic, brainwashed cultist sociopaths who call yourself Zach's relatives should all be given a dose of strychnine and left in an empty room to pray and heal each other. But that's just the way I feel about it. Hey, surely we should allow justice to take its course in these matters, right? So what did the state of Washington do to these people? Nothing, not a fucking thing. You see, in the criminal code of the state of Washington, it clearly states, and I fucking quote, "A person treated through faith healing by a duly accredited Christian Science practitioner in lieu of medical care is not considered deprived of medically necessary health care or abandoned." It doesn't specifically mention the General Assembly and Church of the Firstborn, but it was used in their defense regardless, because it still points out the state's stance that describes faith healing as necessary health care. Please leave your comments below, either in defense of or against this church and their actions. All comments will be kept. This is Super Silent. Thank you for watching.